Have you ever been bothered by the disagreement between Paul and Barnabas in Acts 15? It seems like the end of a great partnership, but was it really? Hi, I'm Jeremy, and in this video, we're going to look at how this ministry split wasn't a failure, but may have actually been a part of God's plan. If you haven't read Acts 15, 36-41 recently, I encourage you to pause this video, read it now, and then come back and we can go through this together. Paul and Barnabas had just returned from Jerusalem with a decree from the Jerusalem Council, bringing news from the council how Gentile believers should act as believers. Their team also included Silas and Judas, respected leaders in the early church. And after some time, Paul suggested revisiting the churches they had just planted on their first missionary journey. This wasn't just about evangelism, it was about strengthening the believers, encouraging the new churches. Barnabas agreed, but he wanted to bring John Mark along. Now, John Mark had abandoned them on their first journey, and Paul didn't want to risk that happening again. Barnabas, ever the encourager, saw potential in Mark and wanted to give him a second chance. Neither leader was willing to change course, and the Bible says they had a sharp disagreement. That phrase in the Greek implies intense emotion. This wasn't a small argument, it was a passionate clash of convictions. But here's the key. There's no indication that this disagreement turned toxic. They didn't slander each other, they didn't force the church to take sides, and they didn't walk away from the ministry. They just walked in different directions, each still committed to the mission God gave them. And that's rare today. Too often, disagreements in ministry turn into personal divides. But Paul and Barnabas modeled something better: conviction without condemnation. Again, conviction without condemnation. And look at the fruit of that separation. Instead of just one ministry team, there were now two. Paul took Silas and later picked up Timothy and Luke. New leaders added to the mission, and Barnabas took Mark and continued to disciple him in a different, less demanding environment. And what happened? Over time, John Mark matured. Later in life, Paul even wrote, "Mark is useful to me in ministry." And of course, Mark eventually wrote the Gospel of Mark, and we get 1st and 2nd Timothy and Luke from the other party. This wasn't a spiritual casualty, it was a launching point. God used this split to expand the mission, develop future leaders, and grow the church. It reminds me of what Joseph said in Genesis 50, verse 20. "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Even when people part ways, God's plan keeps moving forward. So, what can we learn from this? First, disagreement isn't always disobedience. Sometimes it reflects different giftings, different perspectives, or even different calling. Barnabas tended to be a natural encourager. He believed in the restoration of people. Paul was a strategist. He needed a dependable team for this high-risk work he was about to take on. Neither was wrong. Both were faithful to their role. And secondly, unity doesn't mean uniformity. We don't all have to do the same thing in the same way at the same time. Christian unity means that we stay rooted in love even if our paths diverge. And finally, when you face a disagreement in ministry, don't panic. That's kind of our first thing, right? We are in disagreement, we panic. But maybe you should ask a few things. Is this a core gospel issue or just a difference in the method or approach? Are both sides seeking God's will? Could this be a moment where God is multiplying the mission? The split between Paul and Barnabas may have looked like a setback from the outside, but it was actually a setup for a greater kingdom impact. God used it to disciple more leaders, plant more churches, and bless the global church. So when disagreements come, because they will, don't let them divide us. Let's allow our differences to multiply our mission. Let's be like Paul and Barnabas, committed to the calling, respectful in our differences, and always focused on the gospel of Jesus Christ.